and gentlemen, ro-shaun here for Forever Football DRFC, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel. It's the video you've all been waiting for. It is looking at part 1 and 2 of the sit-down between the Free Press and Gavin Baldwin, the CEO of Doncaster Rovers. We've got the questions from part 1 and 2 in the article with Gavin Baldwin's answers. Now, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on all of them in general. I'll share individual thoughts on a brief basis after each question, but overall I'm going to share my thoughts at the end. And just share what I'm thinking ahead of this. So before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss a YouTube video, and let's get straight into this. So we start off with part 1, and I think, in general, part 1 was the stuff we kind of already asked about. Part 2 was the one that everyone was waiting for, the future of the club, the uncertainty around the ownership, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to not whiz through part 1, because part 1 still is, important for answers, but I'm just going to share what was said. So the first question was, why did the funds come so late for the striker? And here was Gavin Baldwin's response. The funds didn't come late. Well, first of all, in my opinion, let's just read on and see what he says. The chairman, the board, and all the staff could see that we desperately needed a striker. Probably 10 days before the end of the window, we got permission from the chairman to look at options. I think we, and when I say we, I mean Richie, Graham Younger, James Coppinger, and myself, did really well. We went out and talked to players and the clubs that we had to brave, because 10 days before the window ends, a player who would be $3,000 a week is $10,000, or a player is not available at that time. We played the game, we were brave, we got ourselves into a situation where with Will Grigg we agreed a financial deal, but he chose to go to Rotherham. It was a footballing reason, and I think Free Press stated it already, it was a football reason. Then Rich did a great job with Aidan O'Brien. We talked to him, he agreed to come, the paperwork was agreed, the deal was agreed, but unfortunately it didn't go through, and we've had the EFL reasons for that this week. So, and I think we all knew it was Sunderland's, it was the fault of Sunderland, and Aidan O'Brien wants to go there to play regular football. We all know that from the stuff he said in the press in the last week or two, or what the club of Sunderland have said in the last week or two. We know that Aidan O'Brien wants to come here. We knew that everything was sorted, but Sunderland just sent the wrong paperwork, so it was their fault, not us. From my point of view, the funds were available earlier. We just didn't know how much because we had to negotiate the deal. Okay, but we knew if we went to the chairman with a such and such a figure, it was likely to be a yes, or such and such a deal would like to be a no. We knew what ballpark we were batting in. Through the expertise of Richie and Graham, we managed to get a player that was expensive for a price we could afford, or a player in the second instance that wasn't going to be let out at a price we could afford. It was literally a paper of another club of which the EFL have said we could do nothing about, that meant we didn't get the player. The funds were not available late, we had overspent. The budget had been spent, and these additional funds were us going to the owners and asking if we could have more money, please. And you know what? That's a fair comment to make, because, in general, the budget that Wellens was given, he knew the budget when he was coming into the club. So, in general, we knew that the budget had been spent, but we were crying out for more funds. And in my opinion, they were still late. We carried on the conversations, and I think we've done well to get Joe to do, and we all hope he does really well. The feedback from his previous clubs is that he's got every chance. And you know what, Dudu offers a presence up front. He's done quite well, even though we've only scored the 1 goal since he's come. I think that we've still done quite better than we have been this season. We're just still not getting the results yet. Appreciating the problems of transfer deadline day, I think the wider window was really good. I think that's a fair comment to make. I think take deadline day aside, the rest of the window has been spot on. We all fell kicked to the stomach, undeniably, but to that point, I think we all say that Richie's done a brilliant job of rebuilding the team. Looking at the number of contracts dropping off at the end of the season, I would put forward slightly defensively the point of the view of the club that it had been a very good window until then, and we delivered what we planned. I can't deny we feel kicked in the stomach with the deadline day, and that's a fair comment to make because everyone felt that way, so that's a fair comment to make. The second question, how do you reflect on the window as a whole? We brought in 8 players on permanent contracts and 5 loans in, as well as 6 contract extensions. 5 loans in the upper amount of what we'd had said. You'd probably say Rodrigo Vilca coming in was more about numbers because of injuries. You know, I think with the Newcastle United badge on his tracksuit, you know, I think people said, oh, is this a left field panic buy? Did he just come in at the last minute? I think Gavin Baldwin was pretty much admitting that himself there, in my opinion. That might be just a completely left field theory by me, but I think in that comment about Rodrigo Vilca coming in was more about numbers because of injuries. I think that was hinting towards him being a bit of a panic buy. But like we said, hopefully Vilca comes good, because I think he could be our Norberto Solano if he does well. So, you know, there still could be quality in someone that we needed because we needed the numbers rather than it be just because we needed that specific player. Where I would defend the loans we brought in, what we said is there would be quality loans, and as Richie said, there would have to be the cherry on the cake. That's fair. No one could dispute the contribution of Pontus Dahlberg, Ethan Galbraith and Matt Smith look real players. We were working with Thiago Kerr to get him up to fitness, but the other loans have hit the ground running and have made good contributions to the team. We've been criticised in the past, and rightly so, about too many loans and not enough quality, but we were honest in saying there was a COVID-related and us trying to afford to get a team together, which is fair enough. With the players that have come in with the contracts, there is a role and responsibility for each of them and a purpose which Rich identified with Graham and James. If you look at the team for next season, in theory we've got a goalkeeper, a strong back four with backup, a strong front three and players in midfield too. We won't be having to recruit a load of players to fulfil the team next year, and that is exactly what we set out to do. Primarily, Rich, along with Graham, has done a really good job. That paragraph there pretty much links to what was said in the meeting a few weeks ago. The first meeting, the main meeting with the VHC, the Black Bank, with the media, etc. Which was next season. I think Black Bank said it in one of their threads and on Twitter. Next season could be the first season in a long time where we only bring in 3 or 4 players rather than a whole new squad, which is amazing. That could be brilliant for us, and it's exactly what we need. Next question. Could more have been done in the window, and what has been learned? Now, this is a very important question. I don't think we'll be asking that question if the Aidan O'Brien deal went through, or if we didn't have the injuries that we've had. To some extent, I get that, but to some extent, I kind of think, well, maybe we should have, you know, brought people in anyway. I know people have suggested that we should have held more money back for these circumstances, but no manager would allow you to hold money back. That is where we're fortunate to have the owners. We have to act as a backstop. They could see as clearly as the fans that Richie that we need the striker. Until deadline day, we were saying it's been a really good window. Same point as before. If that paperwork had gone through, I think everybody would have been saying the same. Lessons can always be learned. We've got a mop-up meeting next week to discuss what we've learned and what we can do better, as well as what January would look like. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll hear some stuff about January. Richie has said if we're signing a player in the future to not let them do the paperwork electronically, but get them to the training ground and stand over them until it's absolutely completed. Extra security measures, I like that. On saying that, in the time that I've been at Doncaster Rovers, I've never known paperwork not be completed correctly before. Normally it gets done. Comment down below if you remember a time where it's happened in the past with paperwork, or something's gone wrong in the deal that maybe we could have sorted or the club could have sorted that we're getting the player from. Comment down below if you recognise any more occasions on that, because, you know, I'm clueless in that. It didn't occur to us the paperwork wouldn't get done because it's never been a problem before. We were all very excited. I'm adamant that what will improve our transfer windows is the continuity of managers, and that's something that Gavin Baldwin said we needed at the club now. With that, you'll have a consistent recruitment style, a consistent approach to what each position looks like, and that will make so much difference. As a board, we recruit to a philosophy and we have a DNA for each position. We thought that if you give us a definite direction of travel. What we've learned over time is that even within those parameters, a manager will have very different ideas on what a tall left back will look like. Accrington, for example, they do a great job and have a style and everything, but if they've lost their manager, even if they've recruited the next one to the same style, it would be unlikely to be as smooth. That is where we've suffered in the past through upheaval of managers. Fair play to the managers, they've gone on to championship clubs, but hopefully we've covered that with the contractual arrangements with Richie. Also, with who Richie is, Richie was very clear he needed a home and to be at a club for several years to demonstrate what he can achieve. So it's almost mutual that we wanted him to stay, and he wants to stay. We're going to do our best to help him, and he's going to do his best to help us. It feels good at the moment. Very interesting, especially with the stuff on the pitch. But like I said, with injuries coming back and stuff like that, hopefully, fingers crossed, the situation on the field will change for the more positive. So the next question, are you confident Richie's going to be here for a while? He said, yes, definitely. You would hope that Richie would go on to manage a long time at top level, but you'd also hope that he's here for 5 years first. The players love his sessions. They keep using the words that he's a footballer's manager. He loves getting out on the grass and he loves what he does, so he's really popular with the players. But also he's very shrewd how he operates. He won't bring players in that if it didn't work out, he wouldn't be able to move either out on loan or whatever. So he can put money back into the club to bring people in. He's got very clear ideas of how to operate off the field, which is obviously very interesting. Is it possible to have a long-term vision not tied to the manager? You can have a long-term vision, you can have a direction of travel, but it's rocky with a new manager. We have a clear process of how we recruit the manager, and within that process is criteria. One of the biggest ones is how they play football, the philosophy. Part of our recruitment, the highest scoring has been the philosophy. But Grant McCann playing 4-3-3 and Richie Wellens playing 4-3-3, there will be different players in there. They may play the same system, but their players wouldn't likely be ideal for each other. Therefore, it does make it really rocky when you're getting a new manager. Dick Watson said many years ago that the biggest thing we can ever do is to have continuity of manager. At the time I understood it, but now I understand it a lot more, and it was a really wise thing to say. So Gavin Baldwin's admitting his mistakes, which is, you know, a manly thing to do. He's owning up to it, fair enough, I'll take that into account. And I'm sure, hopefully, other fans will take that into account as well. Some may not, but that's their opinion. How would you address suggestions Richie was not backed in the window? Gavin Baldwin said, as part of the recruitment process, we supplied all the candidates who went to the final interview stage with information on the current squad and the money available to put a squad together. And basically we said, if you don't like it, don't come to the interview. Richie's words was that he was pleasantly surprised by what was available. From the start, we were all absolutely transparent. It was like a church fundraising board in reverse. We signed Ben Close and it came down. Then again, when we signed someone else, we do try to work hard to get the players the manager wants, and as long as they meet the financial criteria, we're happy. But also when we get to the final deal with the player, we'll go to the manager and say these are the implications. Are you happy with where that leaves you because you still need X, Y, and Z? And this is what you'll have left to get it. Richie can then prioritise. He was very clear on which positions he was prioritising and put more money into the club than others, than others. The process was transparent from appointing the manager to recruiting Joe to do. We've all understood the implications the whole way through. I think Richie was backed and he said he was pleasantly surprised, and that backing has been extended now. Next up, do you feel you have made the progress on the structure of the squad? He said definitely. If we choose, we've got to settle back four for next year. We've got to settle front three for next year. And there are players like Charlie Seaman who are in the mix this season and may be considered first choice next season. Richie rates Ben Close really highly. We've got young talent coming through. It's exactly what we were trying to achieve before COVID. It may be a criticism of ourselves, but COVID was a year we just tried to get through and ensure we had a club at the end of it. That's fair enough. There was too many loans and some weren't of the standard we want, but with one window, I think we're back on track again. Myself, Richie, James and Graham, we're having a meeting next week to determine what the perfect January would look like. Again, can't wait to see what happens with that meeting. At the end of the season, what would be looking to recruit in the season after that. Graham has presented a vision of what the next 5 years of recruitment could look like for Richie. So, pretty much a 5-year plan, but for a recruitment point of view. There's clearly a plan for the football side, which myself and the chairman will try to support. That's crucial here, try to support, because on the one hand, you know, you want them to support them, but on the other hand, there's some things they may not be able to do at this current stage. So they'll try to support, which, again, make your own minds up on that. Have funds been set aside for January? So we always have a plan for January, and we have a minimum threshold if you like. Then we are tasked with good cup performance or club Doncaster performance or moving players out of order to boost it. There's always a fund available for January. How big it is depends on circumstances. I'd like to think that last January, even if it didn't work out by the end of the season, we gave it a real go and we backed the manager. We tried to give ourselves the best chance for promotion or the playoffs. And to an extent, I have to agree with that. You know, we did give Darren Moore some decent players. We extended a couple of loan deals at the end of the season. We got Josh Sims a second loan. We convinced Southampton not to cash in, and we gave him on that second loan deal. It was just the players' morale, I think, last season that just collapsed. As soon as Darren Moore left and Butler came in, didn't matter what Butler was trying to do. The players just absolutely collapsed, and we just didn't perform to the standard that we knew we would. And we just collapsed and we bottled it. So you can say that's true on that. You can say that's true on that part. We tried to give ourselves the best chance of promotion or the playoffs, exactly. So, and like we said, the players at the end of the day have got to be the ones on the field to not bottle it, if you will. Finally then, for part one, are there funds still available for the free agent market? We're at the end now. It would have to be exceptional. The board, and by that I mean Terry Bramwell and David Blunt, are always there. If there are exceptional circumstances, the door is always open to talk to them. You do think is exceptional circumstances now. And of course, this part one was actually before we got Joseph Olowu in the door. So, yeah, there we go. We ended up getting him in the end. Now, let's go to part two. Now, this one's a big one. This is talking about supporter discontent, his future, and a perceived lack of passion in the club's hierarchy. So let's go straight into it. So have you or David Blunt considered your positions at the club? And his response is no, not at all. We would say we are quite proud of what was happened to the club from when we started working together and after the 2013 experiment season. It was a club that was hemorrhaging millions and took over a stadium that was doing similar. We've now got a stadium that generates revenue for the club as part of Club Doncaster business model, and a club that each year has a plan to improve on the playing budget but doesn't rely on owner funding unless they choose to step in and help us. We don't want anything to happen to the owners, but if they weren't around this club, it would be operating as it is now, but without the comfort of the backstop the owners provide, which has been essential in bringing Dudu and Vilker in, for example. It's been tough. We've had to make harsh decisions, but we've produced a football club that stands on its own 2 feet, with a playing budget that is improving and giving its best chance of getting to the championship, which is where everyone wants it to be. I think we survived COVID really well, and I think we've worked well with our fans, and we haven't shied away from the fact they were incredible during COVID, and he's right with that. At the same time, COVID hasn't disrupted the plans for the club that can stand on its own 2 feet, and that any owner funding is a pleasure and an additionality. I think there's been a huge achievement from where it was. What's my response to that? I don't know, I think he's, him admitting that they've had to make harsh decisions is, a fair one. You've got to give him credit for admitting it was harsh decision. They've made harsh decisions. And, the COVID year, obviously everyone can take an exception to that because it was a tough time for every club. So, everyone's been trying to survive the COVID years. And, you've got to give him credit for that as well. So, I don't know, I'm just very 50-50 on the whole thing. But again, like I said, I'll give you my stance at the end, but that's just where I'm sitting on that one. Can you understand the discontent of some supporters? Now, Gavin Baldwin's response to this is very interesting. What I can understand is that some fans would love a club that spends a lot of money. We're not that club, therefore I can understand the frustrations. People such as myself, maybe David, maybe Terry are talking about building for the future and making sure the playing budget improves every year, with incremental improvements in the playing budget, facilities and processes as revenues allow. Some fans want that today, I understand that, to be fair, but we're not that club, we're not those people. It frustrates some people, but equally there are a lot of people who tell us they are delighted with how we operate, what we do in the community, at the same as trying to increase the funds to improve the playing budget. And people are reassured that they'll be here for another 100 years, and we are trying to be in a position where we can sign better and better players. I understand there'll be excitement over models at other clubs, but they also come with their own risks. And, speak from a neutral football sense, he's got a point there. Clubs that throw millions and millions out every year are going to come with their own risk if it doesn't pay off. So he's got a point. He's got a point, in my opinion. How do you respond to the suggestions there is no passion from the club, from those at the top, and a lack of football knowledge? This is his response. People shouldn't underestimate David's knowledge of the game. He's played professional football and he's probably watched more games than anyone else involved in the club. Again, comment down below if you know that to be true. I rarely see David Blunt at home games, but if you've seen him at home games more than other board members, then comment down below, because I want to get the fans' point of view on that. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that that's completely and utterly false, but I just haven't seen it myself, so I can't comment really on that. We've also sought through the recruitment committee to bring in more football people. Therefore, we have James Coppinger as part of it now, someone who knows the club. That's a fair point. We're actively seeking to bring in a greater football opinion. That could be very exciting. Is that the potentiality for a director of football at the club? Is that a potentiality for more football brains, more football IQ in sort of a mix of coaching and board level? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, hopefully that means that we're probably potentially looking to bring in a director of football at some point. But we'll see what happens. James is a constant. If the manager was to change, James would still be here because he's a club appointment rather than a manager one. We've tried to look at that and we'll continue to do so. We tried to give the football operation autonomy to recruit footballers within certain parameters and the direction of travel that are set out within our own processes. How long contracts should be, age restrictions on certain contracts, contracts dropping off per season, incentivised contracts, etc., etc. But primarily, if we can let football achieve what they want to achieve, we will try to support them. So, for example, Richie wants to bring Ben Close in, and you wouldn't get David Blunt commenting on whether he's a good player. He will say if you think he's good enough, Richie will try to get him for you. That is more the culture, and I don't think it'd be right for myself or David to be commenting on football ability. We can comment on if the deal will work financially. And that's a fair point, because at the end of the day, you know, David Blunt used to be in charge of Keep Moat Homes. Gavin Baldwin used to be at the Dome and on the board there. So they're not really football people, so I can kind of get that comment. They can't comment on football because they're not football people. Football is a ruthless world, and Richie, like all of us, will get judged on results. How can you judge a manager on results if we're picking the team? It just doesn't work. If I played football for 20 years, I'd still try not to interfere in the football decisions because we've tried to recruit the manager to bring in certain skill sets. If we handcuff him, he can't produce what he needs to produce. And that's a very funny way of putting it. Little is heard publicly from both Terry Bramall and David Blunt. Why is that? And that's a fair question. I think that was one of... I don't think that was one of mine. I asked a couple of questions, and I don't think that was one of them. Baldwin's response to that one, though, they are passionate about their football, and they're equally passionate about the community, and they're passionate about developing Club Doncaster to give us a better football future in the football club in the future. They're passionate, but they show their passion in different ways. David, for instance, is very shrewd, a rock, and very determined. He doesn't go about it by shouting and beating his chest, saying we're going to do this and that, but it's all about actions, improvement, and thought. When we've made a decision, he has to steal to deliver. They want Rich to talk about football, and that should be our main conversations. If there's a business conversation to be had, that is my role. Their gifts to us is their skills, their expertise, their abilities, but also their passion. They're the ones who have driven the club from losing millions and millions to this point, at break-even point. They've had to make tough decisions and fun initiatives to allow us to get to that place. That is all passion, they just show it in a different way. They are steely determined, and that is the way they operate. As regards communication, Richie's a great communicator. Sean Lockwood is embracing how to communicate, and I'd like to think I play my part in communicating as well. So, very interesting points there from Gavin Baldwin on both parts of the Q&A. Obviously some stuff to take, some stuff that are going to be brushed over. I know some fans, there'll be some fans out there that are like, oh, I don't agree with any of it, not listening to a word of it, Baldwin out, Baldwin out. That's their opinion. That's their opinion. In terms of my stance on the whole thing, I'm going to reserve judgment until I see the proof in the pudding. We've heard, you know, the talk that, oh, we're improving the playing budget year over year, you know. I think there was some rumours from media that, I'm not too sure whether it was media or it came from someone else, but there was rumours going about that the playing budget will get bigger and bigger. It will be even bigger next season. The rumour is it's going to be bigger next season as well. So, again, we don't know. We really don't know. But in terms of the overall Q&A, I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see the proof in the pudding. If, let's say, January, we bring in some more talent if we need to, and it's the quality that we're expecting, the quality that we need, we get out of this relegation trouble, we end up mid-table, we consolidate with mid-table this season, then next summer we sign 3 or 4 players, quality players, and let's say we end up being part of that promotion push again next season. If that happens, and we get to the championship within the next 2 or 3 years, well, minimum 2 or 3 years, then we know all along that they were telling the truth. If we get relegated to League 2 this season, and we don't bounce straight back up in the next couple of years afterwards, we know they were lying. So I'm reserving judgment and seeing exactly what happens, because if I don't see the proof in the pudding, I'll come out and I'll politely say the proof's not in the pudding, what's happening. If we start to see what's been said, then, you know, I'll start going, well, yeah, I'm sort of, you know, less reserving my judgment, more on the side of the board on this one. So my stance currently, as of today, as of Sunday I need to remember the date, Sunday the 12th of September 2021, as of today, I'm reserving judgment on all of this until I see the proof in the next year or two. So, you know, I think it's kind of like what Edu was saying about Arsenal, like we're sort of building towards the future and we're not sort of, you know, going for the here and now. We're sort of building a medium to long-term project. And, you know, I don't know. The difference between us and Arsenal is, you know, they're not the, you know, our owners aren't the Kroenkes. You know, they're not this multi-billionaire American owner that cares more about the Rams than they do about Arsenal. But, you know, like I said, I'm reserving judgment. Let's just see what happens. And, yeah, I want to see the proof in the pudding. Otherwise, I'll come on here and I'll say that they were lying. But like I said, in the next year or two, if the proof's there and they've done it and we're in the championship in the next couple of years, then I'll come out and say, you're telling the truth. You know, great to see that you've gone on your words. You haven't gone back on your word. You've kept to your word. You've kept your promises and you've delivered. But again, I'm reserving judgment until I see that happen. So there we go, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. Share your opinions in the comments down below. I know there'll be some people that were like, why are you buying any of this garbage? He's lying about everything. Like I said, I'm reserving my judgment. I want to see what happens. But, you know, you're free to comment whatever you comment. You know, I'm not going to hold you back from commenting your opinions. That's your opinions. But there we go, guys. Thank you very, very much. My name is Gavin Baldwin from Forever Football, DRFC, keep it on the Rovers life, and that, my friends, full-time. Rovers side die, thank you very much, and I'll see you all in the next video, which will probably be the Morecambe preview on Friday. See you then. Rovers till I die, Rovers